Let the record show that as of 3:33 a.m., the patient has survived phase 1 of the operation. Prepare for phase 2.
Those geniuses at Renegade Kid have done it again. Who are they, you might say? The developers for Moon and Dementium Reward, no less. And now they brought out a sequel for Dementium Reward, Dementium II. And with so few horror games for the DS, I was praying for it to be good. So let's take a look.
Welcome back. Looks good. Do you know your name?
The story doesn't really have anything to do with the ward, but it maintains its mature, violent and bloody feel. It's simple really. You play as William Redmore, and he's been thrown into a mental hospital prison cell with no memory of how he got there. Before he gets a chance to contemplate, the whole prison and hospital goes Link to the Past-esque dark world on your ass, and you're left wondering, what the f*** is going on here? So basically you make your way through the hospital, kill whatever these things are along the way, whilst contending with this hounding guy who needs to tone down the bass in his voice.
Whatever was wrong inside your head, we let it out. God help us all.
The game's high production value certainly helped the narrative, as you've got full motion cutscenes and voice acting here. But the story never gets in the way too much, and it's not what I played the game for. Anyone who's played a first-person shooter for the DS will feel right at home with the controls, so I won't delve too deep on those. As with any other first-person shooter, holding the DS isn't the most comfortable of arrangements, so you can't play for very long times, which is actually a blessing, as I'll explain in a bit. Movement is very sluggish in my opinion. I mean, I know this guy's a mental patient, not in the best of shape, but damn, speed the hell up. Renegade Kid realised the issues associated with the first Dementium and have addressed them. A handy map is displayed on the lower screen, enemies no longer respawn when you leave and re-enter a room, and now a torch can be held akimbo with a one-handed weapon. Swapping out weapons is a breeze, and they are all varied and handled very well. The main strategy here is stereotypical for a horror game. Ammunition is scarce, so you gotta use it when it counts. It's a tried and tested winning formula, but the weapons are fun to use, and it's a shame as I couldn't use them as much as I wanted. But this problem is addressed more as the game progresses. Luckily there is a survival mode available, which focuses on the combat side of Dementium II a bit more, and this acts as a good way to make the game last longer. Boss battles are pretty impressive, and the scale of some of them is quite striking to look at for the DS. Dementium II's major standout point is its presentation, and I have to say it's very impressive, bar one problem I'll address later. The environments have to be some of the best I've seen on the DS, whether you're traversing the gloomy looking hospital rooms on the inside or the snowy covered terrain outside. Monsters are wonderfully grotesque in their design, and seeing rather explicit scenes like this one is rather refreshing to see on the DS. The game is creepy, probably the scariest I've ever played on the DS, but it's not going to frighten you out your wits, unless you play alone in the dark with a pair of really good headphones. And that leads me to the sound, and that's the problem I was telling you about. Mostly it's the music, and whilst it does set the mood right, it sounds terrible. Whenever you encounter an enemy, you hear this screeching string instrument riff that repeats and repeats. It got on my nerves very quickly. It was scary, but for the wrong reason. Luckily, you can turn it off, and I highly recommend you do, because the music also acts as a way to let you know there's enemies nearby, and isn't enemies jumping on you unexpectedly the whole point of a horror game? There's also a few annoying moments here and there, like these mental patients who just won't shut the hell up. Problems aside, Dementium II is a very impressive addition to the DS library. Is it worth a buy though? No. Why? Guess. Yeah, it lasts like 5 hours. This is understandable because the game looks really good, but it is an entertaining and engaging thrill ride whilst it lasts. I say rent it for a weekend, play it in the dark, turn the music off and wear a pair of skull candies, because that's the scariest experience you'll get on 2 screens today. I'm going to give Dementium II for the Nintendo DS an 8.5 out of 10.
That was a mere glimpse of what I'm capable of.